Ajunta Pall's story begins during the ancient era of the Old Republic, long before the Sith Order was even an idea. A highly skilled Jedi, Ajunta Pall was deeply respected for his intellectual prowess and unique abilities, particularly in Jedi alchemy, a rare, complex discipline that allowed him to manipulate matter on a molecular level. While many Jedi saw alchemy as a specialized tool, Pall saw it as an untapped source of immense power. His curiosity and desire to master these forbidden techniques became his first steps down a path that would change galactic history forever. The Jedi Order believed that the Force was a force to be balanced, a harmonious partner rather than something to control. But Pall's ambition drove him to a different view. He believed the Force could be used to bend reality itself, allowing those who wielded it to reshape worlds and control their destinies. This conviction placed him in direct opposition to the Jedi Council and ultimately to the very teachings that formed the foundation of the Jedi way of life. The 100-year darkness over time, Pall's beliefs inspired a faction of like-minded Jedi to join him. These followers, later known as the Dark Jedi, shared Pall's view that the Force was not simply a source of harmony, but a tool of dominance. The ideological rift between the Jedi and Dark Jedi became more volatile, culminating in a cataclysmic conflict known as the 100-Year Darkness. This was more than a physical struggle, it was a philosophical and moral war over the true nature of the Force. During this period, Pall and his followers engaged in forbidden experiments and alchemical practices that tested the limits of the Force. They created creatures of war known as Sith-Spawn, monstrous beings shaped and warped by dark side alchemy. These horrific creations became symbols of the Dark Jedi's rebellion, representing the power and influence they believed could be harnessed from the Force. However, even with their mastery of these dark techniques, the Dark Jedi were ultimately defeated by the Jedi Order. Exile and discovery of Freedon. After their defeat, Pall and the remaining Dark Jedi were exiled to the unknown regions, cast out beyond the borders of the Republic. Wandering in uncharted space, they eventually stumbled upon Freedon, a desolate planet inhabited by the Sith species, a red-skinned, warlike people with a natural affinity for the dark side. The Sith saw the exiled Dark Jedi as gods who had descended from the stars, awestruck by their powerful abilities and connection to the Force. Recognizing an opportunity, Pall took control of the Sith people. Embracing the title Dark Lord of the Sith, he quickly established himself as their ruler, and under his leadership, the Dark Jedi and the native Sith began to merge into one society. This unification of the two cultures marked the true beginning of the Sith Order and the founding of the Sith Empire, an empire built on the principles Pall had championed, that power was to be pursued without restraint, and that the dark side could be harnessed to dominate and reshape the galaxy. The foundation of the Sith philosophy, Ajunta Pall, introduced the Sith people to advanced techniques of the Force, especially those rooted in the dark side. He trained his followers in Sith alchemy, using the dark side to create weapons and artifacts of immense power. These artifacts would later become sacred relics within the Sith culture, passed down through generations as symbols of Pall's influence and mastery. Pall's philosophy was clear. The Force was a means to power, and power itself was the ultimate goal. To Pall, strength and dominance were not merely paths to control, but were the very purpose of life. The merging of the Dark Jedi and the Sith people allowed the Sith Order to flourish. Under Pall's guidance, the Sith Empire grew into a formidable force, united by a shared commitment to the dark side. However, Pall's teachings also introduced an element of danger into the Sith philosophy. The dark side offered immense power, but it also demanded absolute dedication, often at the cost of oneself. Ajunta Pall's regret and legacy. As Ajunta Pall grew older, he began to feel the toll of the dark side. The power that had once given him purpose and strength now left him hollow and tormented. He became haunted by doubts, questioning whether his path had truly brought him the fulfillment he had sought or merely ensnared him in darkness. Toward the end of his life, Paul began to regret the choices that had led him down this path. Despite his outward strength, he was internally conflicted, and this conflict would follow him even after death. When he died, Paul's spirit lingered, bound to his tomb on Corriban. His restless ghost became a cautionary presence, offering guidance to those who sought him, but also serving as a reminder of the cost of darkness. Future Sith Lords would journey to Corriban to seek his wisdom, often encountering his spirit within the dark, foreboding tomb. For many, Paul's spirit acted as both a guide and a warning, a reminder that the dark side, while powerful, could lead to self-destruction. Paul's lasting influence, Ajunta Pall's legacy, shaped the Sith Order's core principles, which continued to influence every Sith Lord who followed. He established a philosophy that celebrated ambition, power, and domination, urging those who wielded the dark side to pursue their desires without hesitation. However, his own eventual regret introduced a complexity into the Sith ideology. Paul's life showed that while the dark side offered great strength, it could also demand an equally great sacrifice. Future Sith Lords would both admire and fear Paul's journey. His life became a foundation upon which the Sith Order would grow, even as his spirit lingered as a reminder of the dark side's seductive but perilous allure. Ajunta Pall's story is one of ambition and tragedy, marking the beginning of a legacy that would shape the galaxy for millennia to come. Tulak Horde's story takes place after Ajunta Pall's legacy has firmly established the Sith Order on Corriban. Horde's rise to power came during a time of expansion within the Sith Empire. He was not born into the line of the original exiled Dark Jedi, yet his talent with the dark side quickly set him apart from other Sith Lords. Known as the Lord of Hate, Tulak Horde was ruthless, calculating, and supremely skilled in combat, particularly in lightsaber techniques. His abilities were so fearsome that tales of his victories would inspire dread for centuries. Horde's power lay in both his martial skill and his mastery of the Force. He was known for his unique ability to drain the life force of his enemies, using the dark side to draw power from those he defeated. This ability gave him an aura of invincibility on the battlefield, allowing him to face overwhelming odds without fear. He firmly believed that combat was the truest measure of strength, and that only the strongest deserved to wield power. For Horde, the dark side was not merely a source of knowledge or philosophy, it was a weapon, and those who wielded it were destined to conquer and dominate. The campaigns of conquest. Tulak Horde's reign was marked by a series of brutal conquests that expanded the reach of the Sith Empire to new territories. Driven by an insatiable hunger for dominance, Horde led campaigns against neighboring star systems, extending Sith influence to new worlds and bringing entire civilizations under his rule. His philosophy of strength through conflict was evident in every battle, as he believed that the dark side thrived on violence, and that the Sith should prove their worth through relentless warfare. Horde's conquests were not only about expanding territory, but also about solidifying his own position within the Sith Order. His tactical brilliance and unrivaled combat skills made him a feared and respected leader. However, he was also known for his cold, detached approach to leadership. He ruled through fear, expecting absolute loyalty from his followers and showing no tolerance for weakness. Horde's view was that the Sith Empire could only be strong if its leaders were willing to do whatever was necessary to maintain control, even if that meant sacrificing their own allies. Master of lightsaber combat, Tulak Horde's skill with a lightsaber became legendary within the Sith Order. He was an unparalleled duelist, and his techniques were studied by Sith acolytes for generations. It was said that no one could match his prowess in combat, and that he could cut down armies single-handedly. His fighting style was brutal, efficient, and precise, a reflection of his belief that power was to be taken, not given. Horde's techniques emphasized aggression and control, a style that was deeply rooted in the Sith philosophy of dominance. In addition to his skill with a lightsaber, Horde was known for his knowledge of ancient Sith magic and alchemical practices. He combined these dark arts with his combat abilities to create deadly weapons and artifacts, which he used to amplify his power. Many of these artifacts were buried with him upon his death, becoming coveted relics within the Sith Order. His tomb on Korriban was filled with traps and treasures, designed to challenge and reward any Sith who sought to claim his legacy. To this day, Horde's lightsaber techniques are revered within the Sith Order as symbols of mastery over the dark side. Ruling from the shadows while Tulak Horde was known for his aggressive military campaigns, he was also a master of strategy and manipulation. Unlike some Sith who sought glory and recognition, Horde preferred to rule from the shadows. He understood the importance of patience and subtlety, and he was careful not to draw the attention of the Jedi Order or the Republic. Horde's approach to leadership reflected a deep understanding of the Sith's need to consolidate power without exposing their presence to external threats. Horde's rule emphasized that true power lay in maintaining control over both enemies and allies. He was known for his ability to inspire fear and loyalty among his followers, but he was also quick to eliminate anyone who posed a threat to his authority. Horde believed that the Sith Empire should remain unified under a single, powerful leader, and that any form of dissent would weaken the Empire. His leadership style became a model for future Sith, who saw him as the embodiment of the Sith philosophy of strength through domination. The legacy of Tulak Horde's death marked the end of an era, but his influence continued to shape the Sith Order for centuries. His tomb on Korriban became a sacred site for Sith acolytes, who sought to prove their worth by navigating the deadly traps he had left behind. His artifacts, including his iconic lightsaber, were seen as relics of immense power, symbols of the strength and brutality that Horde represented. Sith who ventured into his tomb often found themselves facing trials designed to test their resilience, courage, and understanding of the dark side. The legacy of Tulak Horde is one of ruthless ambition and unyielding strength. He showed that the Sith could achieve greatness through conquest, and that true power could only be attained by those who were willing to embrace violence and fear. His life and teachings reinforced the Sith philosophy that only the strong could rule, and his emphasis on combat and control would inspire countless Sith Lords in their own quests for power. A warning and an inspiration. While Horde's life demonstrated the potential of the dark side, it also served as a warning. His brutal approach to leadership and lack of empathy alienated many within the Sith Order, and his legacy became a double-edged sword. While he was revered for his strength and combat skills, he was also remembered as a cautionary figure. Future Sith would look to Horde's life as both an example and a warning, understanding that while the dark side offered immense power, it also demanded absolute dedication. Tulak Horde's impact on the Sith Order was profound. He left a legacy that celebrated strength and domination, but also acknowledged the dangers of unchecked ambition. His life taught future Sith that power was to be seized, and that only the strong survived in a world ruled by the dark side. For those who followed, Horde's life was a reminder that the path of the Sith was one of conquest and control, but also of sacrifice and isolation. The rise of Marka Ragnos emerged during a period of internal strife and instability within the Sith Empire. The Empire, founded by Ajunta Pall and expanded by Tulak Horde, had grown immensely powerful but was plagued by constant infighting among its Sith Lords, each vying for supremacy. Ragnos was a Sith of mixed heritage, both human and Sith, which allowed him to bridge cultural divides within the Empire. His rise to power was marked by strategic brilliance, charisma, and a deep understanding of the dark side's potential. Unlike many of his predecessors, who relied heavily on brute force, Ragnos was a master of Sith politics and intrigue. He recognized that the Sith's strength could only be maintained if its leaders were united under a single vision. This insight shaped his rule and allowed him to create a more cohesive Sith Empire, free from the infighting that had weakened it in the past. Ragnos' reign marked the beginning of a period of stability and growth within the Empire, a time when the Sith could focus on building their power rather than constantly struggling against one another. The philosophy of patience and planning Marka Ragnos' leadership emphasized patience, restraint, and long-term planning qualities rarely found among his contemporaries. He understood that the Sith's ultimate goal of galactic domination could only be achieved through careful manipulation and secrecy. Ragnos believed that the Sith should avoid direct conflict with the Republic, choosing instead to build their strength in the shadows. This approach allowed the Sith Empire to grow without drawing the attention of the Jedi Order or the Republic, both of whom remained largely unaware of the Sith's resurgence. Under Ragnos' rule, the Sith Empire expanded quietly, securing control over numerous systems and amassing resources. Ragnos encouraged his followers to focus on consolidating power rather than pursuing reckless conquests. His reign became known as a time of calculated growth, where the Sith's influence spread slowly but steadily. This emphasis on patience and strategy would later influence Sith philosophy, reinforcing the idea that true power was achieved not through rash action but through careful manipulation and planning. Ragnos as a Dark Lord of Legacy, Ragnos' legacy extended beyond his own reign, as he sought to create a lasting impact on the Sith Order. Unlike many Sith Lords who saw their power as a personal achievement, Ragnos understood that the Sith Empire's survival depended on the strength and unity of its future leaders. He established traditions and rituals designed to ensure loyalty and cohesion within the Sith Order, laying the groundwork for a more stable empire that would endure beyond his lifetime. One of Ragnos' most significant contributions was his emphasis on Sith heritage and tradition. He encouraged the Sith to take pride in their ancestry, especially their connection to the original Sith species and the dark side practices that defined their culture. Ragnos believed that by honoring these traditions, the Sith would remain true to their purpose and avoid the pitfalls of internal conflict. This focus on heritage helped solidify the Sith Empire's identity, creating a sense of unity and purpose that would guide its future generations. The death of Ragnos and the struggle for succession upon his death, Marka Ragnos' passing left a profound impact on the Sith Empire. His reign had been so stable and unifying that his death threw the Empire into a period of chaos, as various Sith Lords sought to claim his mantle. The most notable of these contenders were Naga Sadow and Kresh, two powerful Sith with starkly different visions for the Empire's future. Sadow was a bold expansionist who believed that the Sith should conquer the Republic and fulfill their destiny as rulers of the galaxy. Kresh, on the other hand, was a traditionalist who favored a more cautious approach, believing that the Sith should continue to consolidate their power rather than risk exposure. The conflict between Sadow and Kresh ultimately led to a civil war within the Sith Empire. During this turbulent period, the spirit of Marka Ragnos appeared to both leaders, symbolizing his continued influence even in death. Although Ragnos did not intervene directly, his presence was a reminder of the unity he had once brought to the Sith. His spirit ultimately endorsed Naga Sadow as his successor, setting the stage for the Great Hyperspace War, a conflict that would define the Sith's relationship with the Republic for centuries to come. Marka Ragnos' enduring influence. Marka Ragnos' reign and philosophy had a lasting influence on the Sith Order. His emphasis on unity, patience, and long-term vision would inspire future Sith Lords who recognized the value of building power gradually and strategically. Ragnos showed that the Sith's strength lay not only in individual power but in the collective power of the Sith Order, united under a common goal. Ragnos' teachings reinforced the idea that the Sith could achieve galactic domination through cunning and manipulation rather than open warfare. His approach laid the foundation for the concept of the long game, a strategy of biding time and waiting for the opportune moment to strike. This philosophy would later be adopted by Sith like Darth Sidious, who manipulated events over decades before revealing his true intentions. Legacy is a cautionary example. While Ragnos' reign was largely successful, his death also served as a cautionary tale for future Sith. His passing reminded the Sith of the dangers of power vacuums and the destructive potential of internal conflict. The struggle between Sadow and Kresh illustrated the Sith's tendency toward infighting, even after Ragnos' attempts to instill unity. This cycle of conflict would continue to plague the Sith throughout their history, as each powerful leader's death would often lead to similar struggles for succession. Ragnos' life and legacy ultimately became a symbol of both the potential and the fragility of the Sith Empire. His reign demonstrated that the Sith could be united under a single, powerful vision, but it also highlighted the dangers that came with such power. Future Sith would look to Ragnos as a model of leadership and restraint, even as they grappled with the challenges he faced in unifying the Sith Order. Conclusion of Marka Ragnos' role in Sith history. Marka Ragnos' reign marked a turning point in Sith history, establishing a stable empire and a philosophy of patience that would guide the Sith for centuries. His life and teachings emphasized the importance of unity, heritage, and careful planning, reinforcing the idea that the Sith's true strength lay not only in individual power but in collective purpose. Ragnos' influence would endure long after his death, shaping the Sith's approach to power and control as they continued their quest for domination. His legacy as both a unifier and a visionary would inspire future Sith Lords to build on his achievements, even as his death served as a reminder of the Sith's inherent vulnerability to internal strife. Marka Ragnos remains a foundational figure in the Sith Order, a leader who demonstrated that the Sith could achieve greatness through unity, patience, and a shared vision of power. Naga Sadow rose to prominence in the Sith Empire following the death of Marka Ragnos. Sadow was a brilliant Sith sorcerer and alchemist, known for his unyielding belief in the Sith's destiny to conquer the galaxy. Unlike Ragnos, who advocated for caution and consolidation, Sadow held a vision of expansion and saw the Republic as both a threat and a challenge. He believed that the Sith Empire had grown powerful enough to fulfill its purpose as the dominant force in the galaxy. Sadow's ambition, however, was met with resistance within the Sith Order. Ludo Kresh, another powerful Sith Lord and one of Ragnos' close followers, opposed Sadow's vision. Kresh feared that an open conflict with the Republic would expose the Sith to dangers they were not prepared to face. This philosophical divide between Sadow and Kresh led to a bitter rivalry, with each Sith vying to establish themselves as Ragnos' successor and to determine the future of the Sith Empire. Conflict with Ludo Kresh and the path to war. The struggle between Sadow and Kresh came to a head when two explorers from the Republic accidentally discovered the Sith Empire. Sadow saw this as a sign that the time for conquest had arrived. He argued that the Sith should seize the opportunity to launch an assault on the Republic, believing that the Sith's strength and knowledge of the dark side would guarantee their victory. Kresh, on the other hand, saw the explorers' arrival as a potential danger, arguing that they should be eliminated to prevent the Republic from learning about the Sith Empire's existence. The rivalry culminated in a civil war within the Sith Empire, with Sadow and Kresh leading their respective factions into open conflict. Sadow, determined to secure his vision, orchestrated a complex plan to rally the Sith Empire to his cause. He faked an attack on his own forces, making it appear as though the Republic had launched a preemptive strike. This deception swayed many Sith to his side, convincing them that the Republic was already aware of the Sith and was preparing to wage war against them. With his followers united, Sadow was able to overpower Kresh and assume the role of Dark Lord of the Sith. Having secured his position, Sadow prepared the Sith Empire for war, rallying his forces and utilizing his vast knowledge of Sith sorcery to bolster their strength. The stage was set for the Great Hyperspace War, a conflict that would define Sadow's legacy and reshape the relationship between the Sith and the Republic. The Great Hyperspace War, Naga Sadow's assault on the Republic, was bold and unprecedented. Using his mastery of Sith sorcery, he created massive illusions, making his fleets appear larger and more powerful than they actually were. This tactic allowed him to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies, leading to a series of swift and brutal victories in the opening stages of the war. Sadow's strategy relied heavily on deception and psychological warfare, as he sought to overwhelm the Republic through sheer terror and cunning. The Great Hyperspace War saw the Sith Empire launch devastating attacks across numerous systems, pushing the Republic and Jedi Order to the brink. Sadow's forces laid waste to entire worlds, demonstrating the Sith's power and ambition. However, as the war progressed, Sadow's overconfidence began to work against him. The Republic and Jedi rallied in response to the Sith threat, uniting to repel Sadow's forces and launching counterattacks that strained the Sith Empire's resources. Despite his initial successes, Sadow's campaign ultimately faltered. His use of illusions, while effective in the beginning, could not sustain the Sith's momentum as the Republic adapted to his tactics. The combined efforts of the Republic and the Jedi eventually broke through Sadow's illusions, and the Sith forces began to suffer significant losses. Realizing that his plan was collapsing, Sadow retreated, abandoning his forces and fleeing to the remote moon of Yavin 4. Exile on Yavin 4, Naga Sadow established a secluded stronghold, where he continued his experiments in Sith alchemy and dark side sorcery. He constructed massive temples, using the dark side to create powerful guardians and monstrous creatures to protect them. These temples would become sacred sites within Sith history, housing the remnants of Sadow's knowledge and serving as a haunting reminder of his failed ambition. During his exile, Sadow continued to delve into forbidden knowledge, experimenting with ways to harness the dark side to control life itself. Although he was cut off from the Sith Empire and the greater galaxy, his work on Yavin 4 would leave a lasting legacy. Future Sith would eventually discover Sadow's temples and artifacts, learning from his teachings and drawing inspiration from his ambition. Even in isolation, Sadow's influence persisted, as his temples became symbols of Sith power and mystery. Legacy of ambition and expansion. Naga Sadow's life and actions left a profound impact on the Sith Order. His campaign against the Republic demonstrated both the potential and the limits of Sith ambition. Sadow's emphasis on deception and psychological warfare would later influence Sith strategies, as future Sith recognized the value of using the dark side to manipulate perception and inspire fear. However, his failure also served as a warning, reminding the Sith that overconfidence and unchecked ambition could lead to ruin. Sadow's defeat in the Great Hyperspace War marked the beginning of the Republic's awareness of the Sith as a distinct threat, a knowledge that would shape the Jedi's approach to the dark side for generations. For the Sith, Sadow's legacy reinforced the idea that the Republic was an adversary to be conquered, a goal that would continue to drive their ambitions in the centuries to come. Sadow's role as an inspiration and a warning, while Naga Sadow's actions ultimately led to the Sith Empire's downfall. His ambition and vision inspired future Sith Lords to pursue similar goals. His campaign against the Republic became a symbol of the Sith's potential for galactic domination, and his life served as an example of the dark side's power to instill both awe and terror. Future Sith would study his tactics, hoping to avoid his mistakes while embracing his daring spirit. However, Sadow's life also served as a cautionary tale, illustrating the dangers of underestimating one's enemies and over-relying on the dark side's power. His reliance on illusions and deception, while initially effective, proved insufficient when faced with the Republic's resilience. This lesson would be remembered by Sith Lords who sought to build on his legacy, recognizing that while the dark side offered immense power, it also required careful control and strategic depth. Conclusion of Naga Sadow's role in Sith history. Naga Sadow's legacy is one of ambition, conquest, and the pursuit of destiny. His life demonstrated the Sith's desire for dominance and expansion, inspiring future generations to believe that the Sith could one day conquer the galaxy. His actions would resonate within the Sith Order, serving as both an inspiration and a warning for those who followed in his footsteps. Through his temples and teachings on Yavin 4, Sadow left behind a lasting influence on the Sith, providing future dark side practitioners with a source of forbidden knowledge and a reminder of the price of ambition. His story reflects the duality of the Sith philosophy, an endless pursuit of power, tempered by the dangers that accompany it. Naga Sadow remains a pivotal figure in Sith history, a dark lord whose reach exceeded his grasp but whose vision would shape the Sith's path for generations. Freedon Nadd began his journey as a talented and ambitious Jedi Knight, but he was ultimately dissatisfied with the limitations imposed by the Jedi Order. Nadd possessed an unquenchable thirst for power and knowledge, and he felt restricted by the Jedi's teachings, which emphasized restraint, harmony, and balance with the Force. Driven by a desire to explore the full spectrum of the Force, he began to seek forbidden knowledge, venturing into ancient texts and practices that the Jedi considered dangerous. Eventually, Nadd's curiosity and ambition led him to the remnants of Naga Sadow's temples on Yavin 4. There, he encountered the lingering power of the ancient Sith and discovered Sadow's hidden teachings and artifacts. Immersed in the Sith's dark side philosophies, Nadd abandoned the Jedi Order and embraced the dark side, fully committing himself to the path of the Sith. He was seduced by the power and freedom that the dark side offered, and he took it upon himself to bring this power to a new domain. Conquest of Onderon. Armed with his newfound knowledge and dark side abilities, Freedon Nadd traveled to the planet Onderon, a world with a small population and limited technology. He saw Onderon as a blank canvas, a place where he could wield his power without interference from the Republic or the Jedi. Nadd quickly overthrew the planet's existing rulers, declaring himself king. Using his Sith abilities, he imposed his rule with an iron grip, creating a reign of terror that would last for generations. Nadd's mastery of Sith sorcery allowed him to exert complete control over Onderon's people. He used fear to dominate the population, enforcing loyalty through his dark powers and instilling a culture of obedience. He taught his followers the ways of the dark side, creating a society that was steeped in fear, superstition, and dark rituals. Over time, Onderon became a stronghold of Sith influence, with the planet's rulers adopting Nadd's teachings and passing them down to future generations. Creating a legacy of darkness, Freedon Nadd's rule over Onderon was marked by cruelty and oppression, but it was also a time of transformation. He introduced Sith magic and alchemy to Onderon's culture, embedding dark side practices within the planet's traditions. Nadd established a ruling dynasty, teaching his heirs and followers to use the dark side to maintain control over the population. Even after his death, Nadd's influence remained deeply rooted in Onderon's political and religious systems, as each successive ruler embraced his teachings and upheld his legacy. Onderon soon became a focal point of dark side energy in the galaxy, a place where Sith teachings and dark side artifacts were preserved and passed down through generations. Nadd's tomb was constructed as a dark side nexus, housing his remains and many of the Sith artifacts he had acquired during his time on Yavin 4. His tomb became a sacred site for dark side followers and a place of pilgrimage for those who sought his power. Freedon Nadd's influence beyond death. Even after his death, Freedon Nadd's spirit continued to linger, haunting Onderon and influencing its rulers. His ghost became a powerful presence, guiding and instructing the planet's rulers in the dark arts. He maintained control over Onderon's ruling class, ensuring that his teachings and vision persisted long after his physical demise. His spirit became a symbol of the dark side's eternal influence, a reminder that the Sith's reach extended beyond death. Nadd's spirit was particularly influential over Onderon's leaders, who often consulted him for guidance in maintaining their rule. His legacy created a lineage of dark side practitioners who would govern Onderon for centuries, keeping Sith ideology alive, even as the Republic and Jedi remained unaware of his lasting impact. Nadd's spirit also influenced many dark side followers who traveled to Onderon to learn from his teachings, further spreading Sith philosophy and dark side practices throughout the galaxy. The corruption of Exar Kun. One of the most notable figures influenced by Freedon Nadd's legacy was Exar Kun, a gifted Jedi Knight who, like Nadd, was drawn to the dark side. Seeking knowledge beyond the Jedi Order, Kun traveled to Onderon, where he encountered the lingering spirit of Freedon Nadd. Nadd's spirit saw in Kun the potential for immense power, and he offered Kun guidance, promising him knowledge and strength far beyond what the Jedi could provide. Under Nadd's influence, Kun abandoned the Jedi and embraced the dark side, becoming one of the most feared Sith Lords in history. Nadd's guidance played a crucial role in Kun's transformation, as he passed on the forbidden knowledge he had learned from his own studies on Yavin 4. Kun's subsequent actions, including his role in the Great Sith War, would devastate the Republic and the Jedi Order, proving that Nadd's influence had a far-reaching impact. Nadd's life and death became symbols of the dark side's allure, demonstrating how Sith teachings could corrupt even the most promising Jedi. A legacy of fear and darkness. Freedon Nadd's life and legacy left an indelible mark on Sith history. Through his conquest of Onderon, he established a dark side kingdom that endured for centuries, with his teachings shaping the culture and political structure of the planet. His dynasty of dark side rulers maintained Sith practices, ensuring that Onderon remained a stronghold of Sith influence. His tomb, imbued with dark side energy, became a source of power for future dark side followers, cementing Onderon's place in Sith history. Nadd's ability to influence the living even after his death became a testament to the dark side's power, and his spirit's lasting presence on Onderon showed that the Sith's reach could extend beyond the grave. His legacy inspired future Sith to pursue their own ambitions, knowing that the dark side offered not only power in life, but also the potential to leave a permanent imprint on the galaxy. Nadd's life demonstrated the Sith philosophy of domination through fear and control, a lesson that would resonate within the Sith Order for generations. Conclusion of Freedon Nadd's role in Sith history. Freedon Nadd's story is one of ambition, power, and the pursuit of legacy. By establishing his rule on Onderon, he created a society that embodied Sith ideals, maintaining his influence through fear and dark side rituals. His life showed that the Sith could thrive in isolation, building power in secret, and passing on their teachings even in places far removed from the Republic. Nadd's influence on future dark side users, particularly Exar Kun, proved the lasting impact of his teachings and ensured that Sith philosophy would continue to shape the galaxy. His spirit's continued presence on Onderon became a symbol of the dark side's allure and the Sith's desire for control over life and death. Freedon Nadd's life and legacy serve as both an inspiration and a warning to future Sith, highlighting the dark side's potential to create lasting power as well as its capacity for destruction. From promising Jedi to dark side apprentice, Exar Kun began his journey as a talented Jedi kind with an exceptional understanding of the Force. Known for his ambition and thirst for knowledge, Kun was dissatisfied with the limitations the Jedi Order imposed on its members. He was fascinated by the ancient Sith and the dark side, feeling that the Jedi teachings left significant aspects of the Force unexplored. His curiosity led him to delve into forbidden knowledge, studying Sith texts and artifacts despite warnings from his masters. Driven by an insatiable need for power and understanding, Kun eventually traveled to Onderon, where he encountered the lingering spirit of Freedon Nadd. Sensing Kun's potential, Nadd offered him guidance and the promise of unparalleled power. Nadd's influence led Kun to abandon the Jedi path, pushing him to embrace the dark side and become a Sith. Under Nadd's tutelage, Kun learned the secrets of Sith sorcery and ancient dark side techniques, absorbing the dark side's allure and beginning his transformation into a Sith Lord. The journey to Yavin 4 and the claim of the Sith mantle. After absorbing Nadd's teachings, Kun sought even deeper knowledge. His quest took him to Yavin 4, where he uncovered the ancient temples left behind by Naga Sadow. There, he encountered dark side entities and remnants of Sadow's power, which tested his resolve and pushed him further into the depths of the dark side. Kun's journey on Yavin 4 was a trial that forced him to confront his own fears, doubts, and ambitions. By overcoming these trials, Kun solidified his commitment to the dark side and claimed the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith for himself. Kun's experiences on Yavin 4 also gave him access to ancient Sith artifacts and techniques, including forbidden alchemical practices that allowed him to manipulate life itself. He used these abilities to create monstrous beings and establish a personal army of loyal followers. Empowered by the dark side, Kun returned to the greater galaxy with a new purpose: to bring down the Jedi Order and establish Sith dominance. The Great Sith War and the corruption of the Jedi Exar Kun's campaign against the Jedi and the Republic became known as the Great Sith War, a devastating conflict that would push the Republic to its breaking point. Kun's primary goal was not simply to rule, but to prove the supremacy of the dark side by destroying the Jedi. He launched a crusade against the Jedi Order, determined to wipe out the light side of the Force and assert the dark side's ultimate power. One of Kun's most infamous acts was his ability to corrupt numerous Jedi to his cause, using his charisma, intellect, and dark side prowess to turn them against their own order. He created an army of fallen Jedi who joined him in his mission, increasing his forces and spreading chaos within the Republic. Kun's ability to manipulate and convert others to the dark side demonstrated his deep understanding of the Force and his mastery over Sith teachings. Kun's crusade brought ruin to countless systems as he and his followers laid waste to planets and attacked Jedi temples. His mastery of Sith sorcery and dark side magic allowed him to perform feats that were previously thought impossible. He could harness the dark side to create massive energy blasts, drain the life from his enemies, and even bind spirits to his will. These powers made him one of the most formidable threats the Jedi Order had ever faced. The final stand in Kun's spirit imprisonment as the Great Sith War escalated, the Jedi Order and the Republic rallied against Kun, recognizing that his defeat was essential for the galaxy's survival. In a climactic battle, Kun found himself surrounded on all sides by Jedi forces. Realizing that he could not achieve victory, he retreated to his stronghold on Yavin 4. There, in a final act of defiance, Kun performed a forbidden Sith ritual that allowed him to transfer his spirit into one of the ancient temples. Kun's body was destroyed, but his spirit survived, bound to the temple in which he had hidden himself. This act allowed him to evade death, though he was trapped within the temple for millennia, unable to directly influence the physical world. His spirit, however, retained its power and continued to haunt Yavin 4, drawing dark side practitioners to the planet and corrupting those who sought his teachings. The legacy of Exar Kun's life and actions left an indelible mark on both the Sith Order and the Jedi. His role in the Great Sith War showed the galaxy the destructive potential of the dark side, and his ability to corrupt and control others became a cautionary tale for future generations. Kun's mastery of Sith sorcery, his charisma, and his skill in converting others to his cause made him a figure of both fear and fascination within the Sith. Kun's spirit, bound to the temples of Yavin 4, became a potent dark side presence that would endure for centuries. True dark side practitioners who traveled to Yavin 4 would encounter his lingering spirit, often becoming corrupted by his influence and tempted by his power. His life demonstrated the seductive nature of the dark side, showing that even the most promising Jedi could be turned if their ambition and curiosity were left unchecked. Kun's legacy served as both a warning and an inspiration to future Sith. He embodied the Sith ideal of strength, control, and knowledge, yet his failure also highlighted the risks of overreaching ambition. His life was a testament to the dark side's allure and a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power. Influence on future generations, Exar Kun's actions and teachings would resonate within the Sith Order and the Jedi for millennia. The Jedi Order, in particular, took great caution after Kun's fall, developing stricter protocols to prevent future Jedi from succumbing to the dark side. Kun's ability to convert Jedi to the Sith showed the Order that the dark side was a constant threat, capable of corrupting even the strongest minds. His story was preserved within the Jedi archives, serving as a reminder of the dark side's seductive pull. Kun's legacy also inspired future Sith who sought to emulate his power and knowledge. His mastery of Sith sorcery and his willingness to challenge the Jedi became ideals for those who followed the Sith path. For many Sith, Kun was seen as a visionary who understood the potential of the dark side and who dared to defy the Jedi and the Republic. His actions encouraged future Sith to pursue their own ambitions, knowing that the dark side offered the strength to reshape the galaxy. Conclusion of Exar Kun's role in Sith history. Exar Kun's life and legacy represent one of the darkest chapters in Sith history. His transformation from Jedi Knight to Dark Lord of the Sith exemplifies the allure of forbidden knowledge and the dangers of unrestrained ambition. His actions in the Great Sith War showed the galaxy the full destructive power of the dark side, leaving a lasting impact on both the Jedi and the Sith. Though bound to a temple, Kun's spirit remained a powerful presence, a constant reminder of the Sith's resilience and their pursuit of power at any cost. Exar Kun's story remains a foundational part of Sith lore, a tale of betrayal, ambition, and the pursuit of ultimate knowledge. His life demonstrated that the Sith could achieve great power, but it also served as a warning that such power came with its own perils. A promising Jedi Knight Revan's story begins as a Jedi Knight during the time of the Mandalorian Wars, a conflict that pitted the Republic against the warrior culture of the Mandalorians. Revan was a brilliant and charismatic leader, known for his tactical mind and deep understanding of the Force. However, he became increasingly frustrated with the Jedi Council's inaction during the war. While the Council chose a path of non-intervention, believing that the Republic should handle the conflict, Revan felt a moral obligation to defend the galaxy from the Mandalorians. Disillusioned by the Council's reluctance, Revan and his closest friend, Malak, led a group of Jedi who defied the Council's orders and joined the Republic's military efforts. Revan's strategic brilliance turned the tide of the war in the Republic's favor, and he quickly became a hero to many. However, his decision to disobey the Jedi Council would have far-reaching consequences, as it marked the beginning of his journey toward the dark side. The turn to the dark side during the war, Revan and Malak pursued the Mandalorians deep into uncharted space, where they encountered remnants of the ancient Sith Empire. There they discovered the power of the dark side, and their curiosity and ambition drew them toward it. Revan became fascinated by the Sith's teachings and the raw power the dark side offered. Believing that the Jedi and the Republic were too weak to protect the galaxy, Revan embraced the dark side, convinced that only through the Sith's strength could true peace and order be achieved. Revan took the title Darth Revan, and Malak became his apprentice, Darth Malak. Together they returned to the galaxy with the power of the dark side and a vast fleet of Sith warships. Revan declared war on the Republic, seeking to conquer it and reshape the galaxy under Sith rule. His goal was not simply to dominate, but to bring order to the chaos he saw in the galaxy. Revan believed that the Republic and the Jedi had failed to maintain peace, and that only through the strength of the Sith could the galaxy be united. The Jedi Civil War. Revan's return to the galaxy marked the beginning of the Jedi Civil War, a conflict that pitted Revan's Sith Empire against the Republic and the Jedi Order. Revan's tactical genius once again came to the forefront as he orchestrated devastating strikes against the Republic's forces. He used the knowledge he had gained as a Jedi to exploit the weaknesses of the Republic's military and outmaneuver his enemies at every turn. Unlike many Sith before him, Revan's approach to war was not purely driven by a desire for power. He genuinely believed that his actions were for the greater good, that by conquering the Republic, he could bring about a new era of stability. However, this belief also blinded him to the destructive nature of the dark side and the personal toll it was taking on him. As Revan grew more powerful, he became more ruthless, and his connection to the dark side deepened. During the Jedi Civil War, Revan and Malak's forces laid waste to countless worlds, driving the Republic to the brink of collapse. The Jedi Order, desperate to stop him, launched a daring mission to capture Revan. During a critical battle, Jedi forces, led by Bastila Shan, confronted Revan aboard his flagship. In the heat of the confrontation, Malak betrayed Revan, firing on his ship and leaving him for dead. This act of betrayal marked Malak's ascent to the position of Dark Lord of the Sith. Revan's redemption. Although left for dead, Revan survived. He was captured by the Jedi, who took him to the Jedi Council for judgment. Instead of executing him, the Council decided to erase his memory, hoping to use Revan's strategic genius to defeat Malak, who had taken control of the Sith Empire in Revan's absence. With no memory of his past as a Sith Lord, Revan was retrained as a Jedi and became a pivotal figure in the Republic's efforts to defeat the Sith. As Revan pieced together fragments of his past, he gradually learned the truth of his identity. The realization that he had once been the Dark Lord of the Sith was a devastating revelation. But instead of returning to the dark side, Revan chose the path of redemption. He accepted responsibility for his actions and vowed to stop Malak and the Sith Empire he had created. Revan's journey of redemption culminated in a final confrontation with Malak aboard the Starforge, an ancient Sith superweapon capable of creating vast fleets of warships. Revan defeated Malak in a climactic battle, destroying the Starforge and bringing an end to the Jedi Civil War. His actions saved the Republic from destruction and helped restore balance to the galaxy. Legacy of Darth Revan's legacy is unique within Sith history, as he is one of the few Sith Lords who successfully returned to the light. His story demonstrated that redemption was possible, even for those who had fallen to the dark side. Revan's ability to reclaim his identity as a Jedi after becoming a Sith Lord became a powerful symbol of hope for the Jedi Order, and a reminder that the path to the dark side was not irreversible. However, Revan's impact on the Sith was equally significant. His time as a Sith Lord left a lasting impression on the Sith Order, particularly his belief in the need for order and control. Unlike many Sith who sought power for its own sake, Revan saw power as a means to an end, an instrument to bring about peace through strength. His teachings and strategies would influence future Sith, particularly those who sought to use the dark side for larger, ideological purposes. Revan's dual identity as both Jedi and Sith made him a figure of fascination for future generations. His understanding of both sides of the Force gave him unparalleled insight into the nature of the Force and its potential for both creation and destruction. His journey from Jedi Knight to Dark Lord of the Sith and back to Jedi Knight made him one of the most complex and compelling figures in galactic history. The mystery of Revan's later life. After the defeat of Malak and the destruction of the Starforge, Revan's story did not end. He began to recover memories of his time in the unknown regions, where he had first encountered the remnants of the Sith Empire. Realizing that the threat of the ancient Sith was far from over, Revan embarked on a journey into the unknown regions to confront the Sith and prevent them from returning to the galaxy. His departure into the unknown left many questions unanswered, and his fate remained shrouded in mystery. Revan's disappearance added to his mystique, as both the Jedi and Sith speculated about his final fate. Some believed that he had perished in his efforts to stop the Sith, while others hoped that he might one day return. His legacy as a hero, a Sith Lord, and a redeemed figure made him one of the most influential individuals in galactic history, and his teachings continued to shape the Jedi and the Sith for generations. Conclusion of Revan's role in Sith history. Darth Revan's story is one of complexity, duality, and redemption. As both a Sith Lord and a Jedi, Revan explored the full spectrum of the Force, understanding its capacity for both creation and destruction. His journey from hero to villain and back to hero again made him a unique figure in Sith history, a symbol of the Force's duality and the possibility of redemption. Revan's legacy as a Sith Lord who sought order through power would influence future Sith, while his redemption and return to the light would inspire countless Jedi. His life demonstrated that the line between light and dark was often blurred, and that even those who fell to the dark side could find their way back to the light. Revan remains one of the most enduring figures in galactic history, a symbol of both the dark side's allure and the light side's hope. Origins as a Jedi Knight. Before taking on the title of Darth Malak, he was known simply as Alec, a Jedi Knight and close friend to Revan. Alec was an idealist, much like Revan, and the two shared a deep bond forged during their time as young Jedi. Both Alec and Revan became disillusioned with the Jedi Council's refusal to intervene in the Mandalorian Wars. Like Revan, Alec believed that the Jedi had a responsibility to protect the galaxy, and their reluctance to act against the Mandalorian threat was seen as a failure. Alec followed Revan when he decided to defy the Jedi Council's orders and join the Republic's forces in the fight against the Mandalorians. Under Revan's leadership, Alec became one of the most important figures in the Republic's war effort, earning the nickname Malak. His loyalty to Revan was unwavering, and together they achieved decisive victories that turned the tide of the war. However, this loyalty and idealism would soon lead both of them down a darker path. The turn to the dark side after defeating the Mandalorians, Revan and Malak ventured into the unknown regions, where they encountered the remnants of the ancient Sith Empire. There, they discovered the true power of the dark side and became seduced by it. Revan, always the leader, took the title of Darth Revan, and Malak became his apprentice, Darth Malak. Together, they returned to the galaxy not as heroes, but as Sith Lords determined to reshape the Republic and bring about a new order through the strength of the dark side. Malak's embrace of the dark side was total. He believed that the Republic was weak and that only through the power of the Sith could the galaxy be united and made strong. Under Revan's leadership, Malak helped build a vast Sith empire, using the Republic's own resources to fuel their war machine. The Sith fleet, bolstered by ancient Sith technology and dark side power, quickly became a dominant force in the galaxy. Though Malak was a skilled warrior and strategist, he lacked the subtlety and long-term vision of his master. Revan was known for his strategic brilliance and manipulation, but Malak was more focused on brute strength and conquest. This difference in approach would eventually lead to tension between the two Sith Lords. The Jedi Civil War and Malak's betrayal. As the Jedi Civil War raged on, Revan and Malak led their forces against the Republic and the Jedi. They launched devastating attacks, conquering planets and forcing the Republic to the brink of collapse. However, during the height of the conflict, Malak's ambition began to grow. He started to resent Revan's control over the Sith Empire and desired to take his master's place as Dark Lord of the Sith. Malak saw an opportunity during a pivotal battle when Revan was confronted by Jedi forces led by Bastila Shan. While Revan was engaged in combat with the Jedi, Malak betrayed him, ordering his flagship to fire on Revan's ship. The attack nearly killed Revan, and the Jedi were able to capture him, erasing his memory and returning him to the light side. With Revan out of the way, Malak declared himself Dark Lord of the Sith and took full control of the Sith Empire. Malak's betrayal of Revan marked a turning point in the war. Unlike his former master, who believed in careful strategy and manipulation, Malak ruled with an iron fist. He relied on brute force and terror to maintain control, launching even more aggressive assaults against the Republic. His Sith forces laid waste to entire planets, and Malak became known for his cruelty and ruthlessness. He saw the Jedi and the Republic as obstacles to be crushed, and he used the power of the dark side to fuel his desire for conquest. The Star Forge in Malak's war. One of Malak's greatest weapons was the Star Forge, an ancient Sith superweapon that had the power to create endless fleets of warships. Discovered by Revan and Malak during their time in the unknown regions, the Star Forge became the key to Malak's war effort. With its seemingly limitless production capacity, Malak was able to build an unstoppable Sith fleet, allowing him to maintain his campaign of destruction across the galaxy. Under Malak's command, the Sith Empire continued to expand, and the Republic was pushed to its limits. Malak's reliance on the Star Forge and his brute force tactics made him a fearsome enemy, but it also blinded him to the weaknesses in his strategy. Unlike Revan, who understood the need for subtlety and manipulation, Malak's approach was direct and aggressive. His desire for power and domination drove him to make rash decisions, which ultimately left him vulnerable to the Republic's counterattacks. During his reign as Dark Lord, Malak also conducted experiments on prisoners, using the dark side to enhance his power. He showed little regard for the lives of those under his control, seeing them as mere tools in his quest for supremacy. His cruelty and ambition alienated many, even within the Sith ranks, but Malak was determined to maintain control through fear and force. The return of Revan and Malak's downfall. Malak's reign as Dark Lord of the Sith was cut short when Revan, now a Jedi once again, returned to confront him. With his memory partially restored, Revan led a Republic strike force to stop Malak and destroy the Star Forge. As Revan regained more of his memories, he remembered the bond he had shared with Malak and the vision they had once held for the galaxy. However, Malak had fully embraced the dark side, and there was no path to redemption for him. The final confrontation between Revan and Malak took place aboard the Star Forge, where Malak had made his stronghold. Malak, confident in his power and the might of the Star Forge, believed he could defeat Revan and cement his place as the true Dark Lord of the Sith. However, Revan's tactical genius and understanding of both the light and dark sides of the Force gave him the edge in their battle. In the end, Revan defeated Malak, bringing an end to the Jedi Civil War and the Sith's campaign of destruction. As he lay dying, Malak expressed regret for the path he had taken, acknowledging that he had been blinded by his ambition and the dark side's power. His final words to Revan were a reflection on their shared journey from idealistic Jedi fighting for justice to Sith Lords consumed by their quest for power. Legacy of Darth Malak. Darth Malak's legacy is one of ambition, betrayal, and the destructive nature of unchecked power. While he was a skilled warrior and a powerful Sith Lord, his lack of strategic foresight and his reliance on brute force ultimately led to his downfall. Malak's betrayal of Revan was a turning point in Sith history, as it demonstrated the internal conflicts that often plagued the Sith Order. His desire for power and control mirrored the larger Sith philosophy of dominance through strength, but it also highlighted the dangers of letting ambition override wisdom. Malak's actions during the Jedi Civil War left a lasting impact on the galaxy. His use of the Star Forge and his brutal tactics pushed the Republic to the brink of collapse, but it also rallied the Jedi and the Republic's forces to unite against him. His cruelty and ruthlessness became symbols of the Sith's destructive potential, and his reign as Dark Lord served as a reminder of the dangers of the dark side's allure. Despite his ultimate defeat, Malak's story remains a cautionary tale for both the Jedi and the Sith. His betrayal of Revan exemplified the Sith's tendency toward infighting and self-destruction, while his reliance on brute force over strategy showed the limitations of ruling through fear alone. Malak's legacy, like that of many Sith Lords before him, serves as both an inspiration and a warning to those who seek power through the dark side. Conclusion of Darth Malak's role in Sith history. Darth Malak's rise and fall are emblematic of the Sith's eternal struggle for power. His betrayal of Revan and subsequent rule as Dark Lord of the Sith highlight the internal conflicts that often plague the Sith Order. Malak's reliance on the Star Forge and his brutal tactics brought destruction to the galaxy, but his lack of foresight and overconfidence ultimately led to his defeat. Malak's story is one of ambition gone unchecked, a reminder that the dark side's power can be both seductive and destructive. His downfall at the hands of Revan, the very person he had betrayed, reflects the cyclical nature of Sith history, where betrayal and ambition often lead to self-destruction. Darth Malak remains a key figure in the history of the Sith, a symbol of both the dark side's potential for power and its capacity for ruin. Origins and the Brotherhood of Darkness. Darth Bane, originally known as Dessel, was born in poverty on the outer rim planet of Apatros, where he worked as a miner. Life was harsh, and Dessel grew up surrounded by violence, hardship, and resentment. His early years instilled in him a deep-seated anger and a fierce survival instinct. Eventually, his natural connection to the Force led him to the Sith, where he joined the Brotherhood of Darkness, the dominant Sith organization at the time. The Brotherhood of Darkness, led by Lord Khan, was an attempt to unify the Sith and end the infighting that had plagued them for centuries. However, Bane quickly grew disillusioned with the Brotherhood's methods. He believed that Khan's philosophy of equality among the Sith was fundamentally flawed and weakened the Sith Order. In Bane's view, the dark side was a tool of power, not equality, and only the strongest deserved to rule. This philosophy set Bane on a path of defiance against the Brotherhood and ultimately led to his development of the Rule of Two. The path to power and the Rule of Two. Dissatisfied with the Brotherhood, Bane studied ancient Sith teachings and sought knowledge from the Sith Lords who had come before him. He traveled to Korriban, where he discovered the tombs of ancient Sith and absorbed their knowledge, learning forbidden techniques and deepening his connection to the dark side. Bane came to believe that the Sith could only reach their true potential through a system where only the strongest survived, embodying the dark side's principle of survival of the fittest. Bane formulated the Rule of Two. There would be only two Sith at any time, a master to hold the power and an apprentice to covet it. This cycle of succession would ensure that only the strongest and most cunning Sith would survive, as the apprentice would eventually surpass and overthrow the master, continuing the cycle. In Bane's view, this system would prevent the internal conflicts that had weakened the Sith and allow the dark side to flourish in its purest form. The destruction of the Brotherhood of Darkness. To enact his vision, Bane devised a plan to destroy the Brotherhood of Darkness, whom he saw as a hindrance to the Sith's true potential. He manipulated the Brotherhood into a final confrontation with the Jedi forces on Ruzan, a battle that would become known as the Seventh Battle of Ruzan. Bane convinced Lord Khan to use the Thought Bomb, a powerful and deadly dark side technique that annihilated every Jedi and Sith within its radius. The Thought Bomb decimated the Brotherhood of Darkness, killing nearly every Sith and Jedi on the battlefield. But Bane was unaffected, as he had stayed away from the blast. With the Brotherhood destroyed, Bane's vision became a reality. He was now the sole Sith Lord, and with the Rule of Two in place, he set out to find an apprentice to continue his legacy. Bane's plan had succeeded, and he had effectively wiped out the old Sith to make way for a new order. Training Darth Zana with the Rule of Two established, Bane sought an apprentice who would embody his vision and one day surpass him. He found this apprentice in Darth Zana, a young girl with a strong connection to the dark side. Bane saw in her the potential to become a powerful Sith and began her training, teaching her the ways of the dark side and instilling in her the principles of the Rule of Two. Zana's training was brutal, as Bane pushed her to her limits, testing her strength, cunning, and loyalty to ensure she was worthy of the Sith mantle. Zana's training under Bane reflected his belief that the Sith should be constantly tested, as only the strongest would survive. Over the years, she grew in power and understanding, developing her own dark side techniques and surpassing her master's expectations. Bane encouraged Zana to challenge him, knowing that their confrontation would mark the ultimate test of the Rule of Two. Their master-apprentice relationship exemplified the cycle of power Bane had envisioned, where the apprentice would eventually overthrow the master to continue the Sith legacy. The legacy of the Rule of Two. Darth Bane's introduction of the Rule of Two fundamentally changed the Sith Order. By ensuring that only two Sith existed at any time, he eliminated the infighting that had plagued the Sith for generations. The Rule of Two allowed the Sith to grow in secrecy and power, unburdened by the internal conflicts that had weakened them in the past. Under Bane's system, the Sith operated in the shadows, manipulating events from behind the scenes rather than engaging in open warfare with the Jedi and the Republic. Bane's philosophy emphasized patience, strategy, and manipulation, qualities that would define the Sith Order for centuries. His approach allowed the Sith to survive and accumulate power quietly, biding their time until they were strong enough to challenge the Jedi and the Republic directly. This emphasis on secrecy and long-term planning would culminate in the rise of Darth Sidious, who used Bane's principles to orchestrate the downfall of the Republic and the Jedi Order. Influence on future generations. Darth Bane's impact on the Sith Order was profound, as his teachings and philosophy shaped the Sith for generations. His Rule of Two created a lineage of Sith Lords, each carefully selecting an apprentice who would one day surpass them. This cycle ensured that only the most powerful and cunning Sith would survive, strengthening the Sith Order over time. Bane's legacy was one of discipline, patience, and an unwavering commitment to the dark side. Bane's teachings also influenced the Sith's approach to power and control. He taught his followers that power was to be hoarded and wielded by those strong enough to claim it, and that secrecy was essential to survival. This philosophy allowed the Sith to avoid the attention of the Jedi and the Republic, giving them the time they needed to grow in strength. Bane's influence can be seen in the actions of Sith Lords like Darth Sidious, who would later use manipulation and political intrigue to achieve the Sith's ultimate goal of galactic domination. Conclusion of Darth Bane's role in Sith history. Darth Bane's life and legacy mark a turning point in Sith history. By introducing the Rule of Two, he transformed the Sith Order from a chaotic group of warlords into a disciplined and secretive organization focused on long-term goals. Bane's vision allowed the Sith to survive and accumulate power over centuries, setting the stage for the Sith's eventual rise to dominance. His emphasis on patience, manipulation, and survival of the fittest became the guiding principles of the Sith Order, influencing every Sith Lord who followed. Bane's legacy endured through the centuries, with his Rule of Two continuing to shape the Sith Order's philosophy and methods. His teachings provided the foundation for the Sith's eventual triumph over the Jedi and the Republic, as future Sith Lords used his principles to achieve power and control. Darth Bane remains one of the most influential figures in Sith history, a visionary who ensured the survival and eventual success of the Sith through his revolutionary approach to power. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.